What if I told you the system you're working within, the one promising hard work equals success, was never designed to let most people get ahead? What if instead, it's engineered to funnel wealth upward, to ensure that the majority remain poor, perpetually chasing a dream they'll never quite reach? That's not a conspiracy theory, it's a structural design. And today we're going to uncover how we got here, who built this system, and why it still isn't broken by accident, but by purpose. To understand how the system keeps so many poor, we need to rewind, far back, and trace the roots of modern inequality. In the 18th century, thinkers like Charles Hall, a British physician and social critic, began to spot troubling patterns. Hall argued that the wealthy were increasingly exploiting the labor of the poor, so much so that they retained only the product of 1 hour's work out of 8. He warned that luxury consumption by the rich drained the productivity of the working class. His solution: progressive taxation, land reform, structural changes to how wealth was held. By the late 19th century, Henry George picked up the thread in his seminal book Progress and Poverty, 1879. George asked a piercing question: why does poverty persist even as economies grow? He argued that technological progress and industrialization should make everyone richer, yet the benefits, especially from land and natural resources, were being captured by a tiny property-owning elite. These early critiques laid the intellectual groundwork, but the mechanism for maintaining inequality, that mechanistic system-level design, evolved deeply over time, especially with the rise of modern finance and banking. As capitalism matured, so did financial systems. Central banking, credit markets, and modern banking practices began to concentrate power. The rich gained access to capital, the rest of us had to borrow, often at interest. Economists Joseph Stiglitz and others have shown how monetary and banking policies directly fuel inequality. When interest rates are low, asset owners, the wealthy, benefit the most, because they hold equities, stocks, and real estate. Meanwhile, those who rely on savings or fixed income are squeezed. Almost all money in our economy is created by private banks. When they issue loans, when banks make loans, they don't just pass on other people's savings, they create new money electronically. That means the system is debt-based by design. And guess who carries most of that debt? Not billionaires, ordinary people. When you pay interest, money is transferred from the bottom 90% to the very top. Slowly, a pattern emerges. Financialization, that is the growing dominance of finance in the economy, doesn't lift everyone. It disproportionately rewards those who already own capital. Over the 20th century, this design began to strain under its own weight. In the lead-up to the Great Depression of 1929 and the 2008 financial crisis, you see the same narrative: rising income inequality, booming financial sectors, and mounting household debt. During both eras, the wealthy lent to the poor and middle class, fueling unsustainable borrowing and debt bubbles. Then the system cracked, and when it did, crises hit the borrowers the hardest, while institutions deemed too big to fail got rescued. Take the 2008 crash. Banks bundled risky mortgages into securities, sold them worldwide, and then bet against their own customers. When the bubble burst, households lost trillions in wealth, especially Black and Latino families, while major financial institutions were bailed out. No wonder some people say the system is rigged, because when it collapses, it tends to protect the powerful, not the people. Fast forward to today, and the design hasn't changed. Despite all the talk of reform, if anything, it's more entrenched. Extreme inequality persists. Billionaires extract wealth through inheritance, monopolies, and cronyism rather than earned innovation. Globally, wealthy nations and elites siphon resources from the rest. Maintaining a corporiferous economic structure, financialization continues to reward asset owners, while the majority remain burdened by debt and limited mobility. Institutions historically have shaped these disparities, and safety nets have often been weakened over time. Meanwhile, narratives about pulling yourself up by your bootstraps persist. Even though the bootstrap laces are tangled, over the decades, has anything really changed? There have been attempts, but many reforms fail at the structural level. Progressive taxation and land reform have been proposed for centuries, but political power resists them. Welfare systems and social safety nets do emerge, but neoliberal policies since the late 1970s have weakened them. Even when crises force interventions, they tend to shore up the institutions rather than dismantle the unequal power structure. Noam Chomsky outlines how power concentrates through a cycle. The rich use their money to influence politics, change laws in their favor, reduce regulation, and tax less, which allows more wealth to accumulate. The very system that seems broken is working precisely as designed. This isn't just an academic debate. The design of the system affects your life, your opportunities, whether you can build a foundation or not. If most new money is created via debt, taking out a loan to buy a home or go to university effectively means paying interest into a system that benefits asset owners more than you. If political decisions favor inherited wealth and monopolies, your own financial mobility is harder. If global inequality is structural, then economic shocks like a recession will disproportionately hurt those without capital. Again, and it's not just about being poor. It's about being structurally locked out. Imagine running on a treadmill. You keep moving, but you never quite get ahead. For many, that's exactly the system. 3 key takeaways. The system is not neutral. Wealth and financial systems disproportionately favor capital owners. Debt is a core mechanism. Borrowers shoulder the burden of paying interest, transferring wealth upward. Inequality is not accidental. Modern inequality is a feature, not a bug. The rules perpetuate cycles of concentration. If we continue to treat poverty and inequality as personal failures, then we miss the structural roots. The danger is systemic. As long as the system remains intact, reforms may touch the edges, but real redistribution will be resisted. The question, are we willing to challenge not just policy, but the underlying architecture of our economic world? What you can do? Educate yourself further. Talk about these issues. Demand systemic reform like progressive tax policy, financial regulation, debt reform, or public banking. If you want more content like this, deep dives into economic systems, inequality, and power, subscribe, hit the bell, and leave a comment. What part of the system do you think is most broken, and how would you fix it? Remember, it's not always about working harder. Sometimes it's about rewiring the game, and once you know the rules, you can begin to change them.